When a billionaire CEO comes home early and finds his own mother forcing his 4-year-old daughter to eat grass, his world shatters. 3 years of hidden abuse. One heartbreaking discovery. A father's choice that changes everything. What he does next will restore your faith in love. If this story moves you, please hit like and comment telling us where you're watching from. It really helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. Your support means everything. The November rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Whitfield's corner office on the 43rd floor. At 40 years old, he'd built Whitfield Technologies from nothing into a billion-dollar empire. But lately, the view from the top felt lonelier than ever. His phone buzzed for the 100th time that morning. Another crisis. Another emergency that only the CEO could handle. Mr. Whitfield, the Tokyo investors are on line 3. His assistant Jennifer's voice crackled through the intercom. They're threatening to pull out if you don't take this call. Marcus rubbed his temples, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. He'd been at the office since 5:30 that morning, hadn't seen daylight in 3 days, and couldn't remember the last time he'd made it home before midnight. His daughter Aria's face flashed through his mind, those impossibly blue eyes that mirrored his late wife Catherine's. Catherine. Gone 3 years now. Killed by a drunk driver on a rainy night just like this one, leaving him alone with a 1-year-old baby girl and a company on the verge of collapse. His mother Vivian had stepped in immediately, insisting she'd care for Aria while Marcus salvaged their family legacy. Tell them I'll call back in 20 minutes, Marcus said, making a decision that surprised even himself. I'm going home. Jennifer's shocked silence spoke volumes. Marcus Whitfield never left early. Ever. The drive from downtown Boston to his estate in Brookline normally took 45 minutes, but Marcus made it in 30, his anxiety building with each mile. Something had been nagging at him for weeks now, a father's instinct that something wasn't right. Aria had become so quiet lately, so withdrawn. At 4 years old, she should have been bursting with energy and questions. But instead, she flinched at loud noises and rarely smiled anymore. She's just shy, his mother had explained dismissively. You're never here to see how normal she is during the day. The guilt had been effective. Marcus had thrown himself even deeper into work, trusting his mother completely. After all, Vivian Whitfield had raised him, hadn't she? Turned him into the success he was today, through discipline and high standards. But as Marcus turned onto the tree-lined street leading to his home, that nagging feeling intensified into full-blown dread. The colonial mansion sat on 2 acres of meticulously maintained grounds, a symbol of everything Marcus had achieved. He'd bought it for Catherine, picturing their children playing in the vast backyard, family barbecues on summer evenings, Christmas mornings filled with laughter. Instead, it had become a museum of broken dreams, too big and too empty except for his mother's critical presence and his daughter's fading light. Marcus parked in the circular driveway and noticed his mother's Mercedes was still there. Good. He'd been wondering if she actually stayed home with Aria all day, or if his daughter spent more time with staff than family. He entered through the front door quietly, not wanting to announce his presence. The house was eerily silent. No television sounds, no music, no childish laughter that should have filled these halls. Hello? Miss Marcus called out, his voice echoing off the marble floors. Nothing. He moved through the house systematically, checking rooms. The formal living room was pristine, untouched, as if no 4-year-old lived here. The kitchen was spotless, lunch dishes already washed and put away. Aria's playroom upstairs was neat to the point of being sterile, toys arranged on shelves like a showroom display rather than a child's sanctuary. Where were they? Marcus descended the back stairs that led to the sunroom overlooking the garden. Through the French doors, he spotted movement in the backyard. His breath caught. There on the lawn, still wet from morning rain, sat little Aria, her golden blonde hair plastered to her tear-stained face. She wore a thin dress completely inappropriate for the November chill. No jacket, her bare knees pressed into the cold, muddy grass. And standing over her, arms crossed, face twisted in disgust, was Vivian Whitfield. Marcus's hand froze on the door handle as his mother's voice carried across the yard. sharp and cruel in a way he'd never heard directed at anyone but himself as a child. "I said eat it, you ungrateful little brat. Real children are starving in the world, and you dare waste the food I graciously prepare for you?" Grandma, please," Arya's small voice broke. "I'm sorry, I'll eat my vegetables next time, I promise." "Sorry isn't good enough," Vivian snapped. "You think you're special because your father has money? You're nothing but a burden. A constant reminder of the daughter-in-law who ruined my son's focus. Now eat that grass and maybe you'll learn some gratitude." Marcus watched in horror as his mother bent down and grabbed a handful of grass, holding it inches from Arya's face. His daughter was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "No, Grandma, please. I can't. It tastes bad and it makes my tummy hurt." "Your tummy hurts because you're weak, just like your mother was. Now open your mouth before I really give you something to cry about." The rational part of Marcus's brain shut down. Pure instinct took over. He yanked open the French doors so hard one of the glass panes cracked, the sound exploding across the yard like a gunshot. Both heads swiveled toward him, but they wore such different expressions. Vivian's face flashed from cruel satisfaction to shocked panic in an instant. But Arya's reaction was what broke him completely. His daughter's eyes went wide with terror, and she immediately scrambled backward on the wet grass, holding up her small hands as if to protect herself from a blow. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I'll be good, I promise. Please don't be mad at Grandma. It's my fault. I'm bad. I'm so bad." The world tilted on its axis. His 4-year-old daughter was afraid of him. Worse, she was protecting his mother, the woman who'd been abusing her. "Arya, sweetheart." Marcus's voice cracked as he moved slowly toward her, hands open, trying to show he meant no harm. "I'm not angry at you. You didn't do anything wrong, nothing at all." "Marcus!" Vivian recovered quickly, her face rearranging into an expression of maternal concern. "You're home early, I can explain this." Arya was being difficult about her lunch again, refusing to eat her vegetables, and I was just teaching her a little lesson about gratitude. Nothing serious, just stop. The single word came out like a whip crack. Marcus didn't even glance at his mother. His entire focus was on Arya, who was now crying so hard she could barely breathe, her thin shoulders heaving. He knelt on the wet grass, ruining his $1,000 suit, and held out his arms. "Arya, baby girl, come here, please. Daddy's got you. You're safe now." But Arya didn't move toward him. She looked frantically between Marcus and Vivian, clearly terrified of making the wrong choice. "It's okay," Marcus whispered, his heart shattering. "Grandma can't hurt you anymore. I promise. Just come to Daddy." "Marcus, really, you're overreacting." Vivian tried again, her voice taking on that syrupy sweet tone she used when manipulating him. "Children need discipline. You're too soft, always have been. That's why I've had to step in and—" I said stop. Marcus finally looked at his mother, and whatever she saw in his eyes made her take an involuntary step backward. "Don't say another word. Not one." He turned back to Arya, softening his expression despite the rage building in his chest. "Sweetheart, will you come here? I need to hold you, please." Something in his voice must have reached her because Arya finally moved, crawling across the grass on her hands and knees until she reached him. The moment she was close enough, Marcus scooped her up, cradling her against his chest as she dissolved into sobs. She was so light. Too light. When was the last time he'd actually held his daughter? Really looked at her. "Shh, I've got you. You're safe. Daddy's here now," he murmured, carrying her toward the house. Arya clung to him like a lifeline, her small hands fisting in his shirt, her tears soaking through the expensive fabric. "Am I in trouble?" she whispered against his neck. "I tried to eat the vegetables, Daddy, I really tried, but they were slimy and made me gag, and Grandma said I was being spoiled and that you would send me away if I didn't learn to be grateful and—" "Stop, baby, stop." Marcus's vision blurred. "You're not in trouble. You're never in trouble for this, never." He carried her inside, acutely aware of his mother following at a distance, already formulating her defense. But Marcus didn't care about her excuses. Not anymore. In the downstairs bathroom, he set Arya on the counter and grabbed a towel, gently wiping the mud and grass from her face and hands. She watched him with those big blue eyes, still afraid, still waiting for punishment. "Arya, he said softly, meeting her gaze. How long has Grandma been doing things like this? The little girl's eyes darted toward the door where Vivian hovered. Marcus moved to block her view, then closed the bathroom door firmly, locking it. It's just us now. You can tell me the truth. I won't let anyone hurt you. Arya's lower lip trembled. Since always. Since Mommy went to heaven. 3 years. His mother had been abusing his daughter for 3 years, and he'd been too focused on quarterly earnings and market shares to notice. What else does Grandma do? Marcus asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. She says I'm bad a lot, that I'm the reason you're always sad, that Mommy died because she was weak, and I'm weak too. She makes me eat gross things when I don't finish my plate fast enough. Last week I threw up the spoiled meat she made me eat, and she locked me in the basement for the whole night because she said I was wasting food and being dramatic. Each word was a knife to Marcus's heart. You slept in the basement? Alone? In the dark? Arya nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I was really scared, Daddy. There are spiders down there and it's cold and I called for you, but you weren't home. You're never home. The accusation, delivered without malice, just sad acceptance, destroyed him. You're right, Marcus said, his own voice breaking. I haven't been here, but I am now, and I'm never leaving you alone with Grandma again, do you understand? Never. But who will take care of me when you work? Arya asked with the practical innocence of a 4-year-old. Grandma says nobody else wants to watch me because I'm too much trouble. That's not true. None of what she's told you is true. Marcus pulled his daughter into another embrace, breathing in the scent of her baby shampoo mixed with grass and mud and rain. You're not trouble. You're not bad. You're my whole world, and I've been the worst father by not seeing what was happening. A sharp knock on the bathroom door made Arya tense. Marcus, open this door immediately, Vivian demanded. We need to discuss this rationally. You're upset, I understand, but let's not make rash decisions based on a misunderstanding. Marcus looked down at his daughter, at the fear that had become her default expression, at the thinness of her arms, at the dark circles under eyes too young to carry such weight. Daddy? Arya whispered. Are you going to send me away? Grandma said if I ever told you about our private lessons, you'd put me in a home for bad children. That was it, the final straw. Marcus stood, lifting Arya with him, and unlocked the door. When he yanked it open, his mother stood there with that familiar expression of righteous indignation that had controlled him his entire life. We need to talk about your overreaction, Vivian began. I've sacrificed everything to help you raise this child while you built your company, and this is the thanks I— Get out, Marcus said quietly. Vivian blinked. Excuse me? Get out of my house. Now. Pack your things and leave. His mother's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally rage. You can't be serious. Where will I go? This is my home, too. I gave up my own life to help you. You gave up nothing. I pay you $75,000 a year to care for Arya. I bought you a brand new Mercedes last Christmas. You live rent-free in a $1 million estate. And you repaid me by torturing my daughter. Marcus's voice remained eerily calm, which seemed to frighten Vivian more than yelling would have. I disciplined her. There's a difference. You're too weak to do what's necessary, just like your father was. That's why I had to raise you with a firm hand, and look how well you turned out. Look how well I turned out? Marcus repeated, something dark and broken in his laugh. Mother, I'm a 40-year-old workaholic who abandoned his daughter to the woman who made his own childhood a nightmare. I turned out damaged, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure Arya doesn't follow the same path. You're being ridiculous. Children need discipline. Children need love, Marcus shouted, finally losing his composure. Arya flinched, and he immediately modulated his voice, rubbing her back soothingly. They need patience and kindness and to feel safe in their own home. You gave me none of that, and I was too broken to see that you were doing the same thing to my daughter. Vivian's eyes narrowed, and her true nature emerged fully. Fine, throw me out, but don't come crying to me when you realize you can't handle a whining brat and a company at the same time. You need me, Marcus. You always have. I needed a mother, Marcus corrected. What I got was a drill sergeant who measured my worth in achievements and punished anything resembling weakness or emotion. That ends now. You have 1 hour to pack and leave. 1 hour? Where am I supposed to go? I honestly don't care. There's a Marriott 10 minutes from here. I'll give you 3 months severance and after that you're on your own. Vivian's face contorted with fury. You'll regret this. That child has you wrapped around her finger already. She's manipulative, just like her mother was. Get out now, or I'm calling the police and filing charges for child abuse, Marcus said, his tone deadly serious. Your choice, mother. Leave with some dignity and some money or leave in handcuffs. Decide quickly. For a long moment, Vivian stood frozen, clearly not believing her son would follow through. But something in Marcus's eyes must have convinced her because she finally spun on her heel and stormed upstairs, muttering about ungrateful children and weak men. Marcus carried Arya to the kitchen and set her on the counter, then rummaged through the refrigerator. Everything was organized with military precision, labeled and dated, nothing appealing to a 4-year-old. What do you like to eat, sweetheart? Real food, not what Grandma made you eat. What makes you happy? Arya looked at him like it was a trick question. I don't know. Grandma says I'm not allowed to be picky. Marcus's jaw clenched. Well, Grandma's rules don't apply anymore. How about we order pizza, with extra cheese and maybe some chicken nuggets and ice cream for dessert? Arya's eyes widened. Really? I can have all that. You can have whatever you want, baby girl, always. But Grandma says junk food makes children fat and lazy and… Arya, Marcus interrupted gently, crouching down to her eye level. I need you to try to forget everything Grandma told you about what you should and shouldn't do. From now on, we're starting fresh, okay? Just you and me figuring this out together. His daughter studied him seriously, processing this with the gravity only a child who'd been forced to grow up too fast could manage. Are you really going to stay home now? Or will you go back to work, and Grandma will come back? The question cut deep. I'm staying. Work can wait. You can't. But Grandma said your company is more important than anything. That's why you're never here. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes for the first time in 3 years. Since Catherine's funeral, he'd locked everything down, turned into a machine that only knew how to work and provide but not how to feel or connect. I was wrong, he admitted. The company meant nothing if I lost you in the process. I'm so sorry, Arya. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening. I'm sorry I let Grandma hurt you. None of this was your fault. It was mine. Arya reached out a small hand and touched his face, her expression far too wise for her years. It's okay, Daddy. You're here now. That simple forgiveness broke something in Marcus's chest, and for the first time in 3 years he let himself cry. Not the silent, controlled tears he'd shed at Catherine's funeral, but deep, wrenching sobs for all the time he'd lost, all the pain his daughter had endured, all the ways he'd failed the one person who mattered most. And Arya, his beautiful, damaged, too forgiving daughter, wrapped her thin arms around his neck and held him while he fell apart. The first week after Vivian's departure felt like learning to breathe in a new atmosphere. Marcus had immediately taken a leave of absence from Whitfield Technologies, delegating to his executive team and shocking everyone by actually turning off his phone for hours at a time. Mr. Whitfield, are you feeling all right? His COO Thomas Chen had asked during their one brief video conference. You've never taken more than 2 consecutive days off in 15 years. I'm fine, Thomas. Better than fine. Just dealing with a family situation that requires my full attention. Is Arya okay? The concern in Thomas's voice reminded Marcus that not everyone in his life was aware of what had been happening. His colleagues had seen him as the ultimate professional, married to his work, occasionally mentioning his daughter in passing but never prioritizing her. She will be, Marcus had said. That's what I'm here to ensure. But ensuring Arya's recovery proved more complicated than any business challenge Marcus had ever faced. On the surface, his daughter seemed to blossom with Vivian gone. She laughed more, asked for things instead of waiting for permission, and slowly began to relax in her own home. But beneath that fragile progress lurked the deep damage of 3 years of systematic abuse. The second night, Marcus woke to screaming. He ran to Arya's room to find her tangled in her sheets, sobbing in her sleep, crying for her mother and begging someone to stop. Arya, wake up, baby, it's just a dream. Marcus said, gently shaking her shoulder. Her eyes flew open, wild and unfocused. For a terrifying moment, she didn't recognize him, and she scrambled backward against the headboard, hyperventilating. It's Daddy. You're safe. You're in your room, in your bed, and you're completely safe. Reality slowly returned to Aria's eyes. She launched herself at Marcus, wrapping around him like a monkey, shaking violently. I dreamed Grandma locked me in the basement again, and there were spiders crawling on me, and I called and called for you, but you never came. I'm here now. I'll always come when you call. Always. Marcus held her until she fell back asleep, then spent the rest of the night in the rocking chair in her room, watching over her like a guardian angel who'd arrived 3 years too late. The nightmares became a pattern. Some nights, Aria would wake up multiple times, each nightmare a window into the horror she'd endured. Marcus started sleeping in her room, and when that wasn't enough, he let her climb into his bed, where she'd curl against him like she used to as a baby. I'm being a burden, Aria whispered one night. Grandma said children who need too much attention are burdens. You're not a burden. You're my daughter, and taking care of you is my privilege, not my obligation. Grandma was wrong about everything, Aria. Everything. But convincing a traumatized 4-year-old to unlearn 3 years of toxic programming wasn't accomplished with words alone. It required patience, consistency, and help that Marcus realized he couldn't provide by himself. Dr. Sarah Brennan came highly recommended as a child psychologist specializing in trauma. Marcus met with her alone first, explaining the situation while fighting to maintain his composure. What you're describing is systematic emotional and psychological abuse, Dr. Brennan said gently. The fact that you recognized it and removed your mother from the situation immediately is crucial. But Aria will need professional support to process what happened. Will she be okay? Marcus asked, the question that kept him awake at night. Can she recover from this? Dr. Brennan offered a careful smile. Children are remarkably resilient, especially when they have a supportive caregiver. The fact that you're here, that you're present and committed to her healing, makes all the difference. But this will be a journey, Mr. Whitfield. There's no quick fix. Marcus brought Aria to meet Dr. Brennan the following week. His daughter clung to his hand in the waiting room, eyeing the toys and books with suspicion. Remember what I said, sweetheart. Dr. Sarah is here to help you feel better. She's a talking doctor, not the kind with shots or medicine. You just chat with her and she helps you understand your feelings. What if I say something wrong? Aria whispered, the fear so ingrained it broke Marcus's heart. There's no wrong answer with Dr. Sarah. You can say whatever you feel, and nobody will be mad. The session lasted 45 minutes. Marcus waited outside, pacing the length of the waiting room, wondering what his daughter was revealing. What new horrors might come to light? When Dr. Brennan emerged with Aria, his daughter looked exhausted, but slightly lighter. Aria did wonderful, Dr. Brennan said. We'll see you same time next week, okay? In the car, Aria was quiet, processing. Did you like Dr. Sarah? Marcus asked. Aria nodded. She has a sand table where you can make pictures with your fingers, and she didn't get mad when I couldn't answer some questions. She said it's okay to take my time. That's right, you can always take your time. Daddy? Aria's voice became small again. Dr. Sarah asked me to tell her about the times I felt safest with Grandma, but I couldn't think of any. Does that make me bad? Marcus had to pull the car over because his vision blurred with tears. He unbuckled and climbed into the back seat, pulling Aria into his lap. No, baby. That makes Grandma bad, not you. You should have felt safe all the time. That was her job, and she failed completely. None of this is your fault. They sat on the side of the road for 20 minutes, Marcus holding his daughter while traffic rushed past, both of them grieving for the childhood Aria should have had. The nightmare of finding a new caregiver was its own challenge. Marcus interviewed 17 candidates over 3 weeks, each more qualified than the last, but Aria tensed around all of them. Finally, on the 18th interview, they met Patricia Rodriguez, a warm 62-year-old grandmother with kind eyes and a gentle manner that was the opposite of Vivian in every way. Hi there, honey, Patricia said, getting down on Aria's level. I hear you like pizza. What's your favorite kind? Arya glanced at Marcus for permission before answering. Cheese. With extra cheese. Extra cheese is the best. I bet we could make our own pizza sometime if your daddy says it's okay. Have you ever made pizza from scratch? Arya's eyes widened. You can make pizza? I thought it only came from restaurants. Patricia laughed, warm and genuine. Oh, sweetheart, you can make almost anything at home. Pizza, cookies, bread. Cooking is like science and art mixed together. If your daddy hires me, maybe we could do some cooking experiments. For the first time during an interview, Arya showed genuine interest. Really? Like a scientist? Exactly like a scientist. We'd measure ingredients, mix things together, see what happens when you add heat. It's quite magical. Marcus hired Patricia on the spot. Having her in the house transformed the atmosphere immediately. She was patient, nurturing, and most importantly, she understood that Arya needed structure without rigidity, guidance without criticism. We don't punish mistakes here, Patricia explained to Arya during their first week together. Mistakes are how we learn. If you spill something, we clean it up together. If you're having a hard time with something, we ask for help. That's how life works, honey. Arya tested these boundaries constantly, clearly waiting for the punishment that never came. When she accidentally knocked over a glass of milk, she immediately burst into tears and began apologizing frantically. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll clean it up. Please don't lock me in the basement. I'll be more careful. Patricia's face registered shock, then deep sadness. She'd known about the abuse in general, but hearing Arya's immediate fear response brought it home. Oh, sweetheart, no. Patricia grabbed paper towels and handed some to Arya. We're just going to wipe this up together, see? No big deal. Milk spills. It's what milk does sometimes. You're not in trouble. But I made a mess, Arya insisted, still crying. And now we're making it clean again, that's all. Come here, honey. Patricia pulled Arya into a hug, and Marcus watched from the doorway as his daughter slowly relaxed into the embrace. Accidents happen to everyone. They don't make you bad. These small moments of reparenting happen daily. Arya would flinch before taking a cookie, waiting for someone to tell her she didn't deserve treats. Patricia would patiently explain that children were allowed to enjoy sweets in moderation. Arya would hesitate before asking to watch television, expecting to be told she hadn't earned privileges. Patricia would cheerfully turn on the TV and watch cartoons with her, explaining that downtime wasn't something you had to earn. But the biggest challenge came at mealtimes. Vivian had turned food into a battleground, forcing Arya to finish everything regardless of whether she liked it, making her eat things that were spoiled or disgusting as punishment, creating such anxiety around eating that Arya would sometimes gag at the sight of certain foods. We're going to practice something called intuitive eating, Patricia explained during their first dinner together. That means you eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, and nobody forces you to eat things you don't like. If you try something and don't enjoy it, that's perfectly fine. Really? Arya looked at the balanced plate in front of her with suspicion. What if I don't finish my vegetables? Then you don't finish them, Patricia said simply. Your body will tell you what it needs. Some days you'll be hungrier than others. Some days you'll want vegetables. Some days you won't. We just try to eat different kinds of food so our bodies get what they need to grow strong. Grandma said I was wasteful if I didn't clean my plate. Well, Grandma had some ideas that weren't very healthy, Patricia said carefully. What matters is that you listen to your tummy. Is it still hungry? Then eat more. Is it full? Then stop. Simple as that. It took weeks before Arya could leave food on her plate without anxiety. But slowly, painfully slowly, the fear began to recede. Marcus watched these transformations while simultaneously trying to maintain his company from home. Video conferences happened with Arya coloring at his feet. Phone calls were punctuated by his daughter bringing him pictures to admire. The balance was precarious and imperfect, but Marcus refused to sacrifice Arya's healing for corporate profits. The board is concerned about your extended absence, Thomas reported during one virtual meeting. Reynolds is making noise about leadership instability. Marcus looked down at Arya, who was building a blanket fort around his desk chair, chattering happily to herself about creating a castle. Let Reynolds make noise, Marcus said. My daughter needs me more than the shareholders need my physical presence in the office. If the board has a problem with that, they can vote me out. Thomas looked shocked. You'd risk the company? I'd risk anything before I'd risk losing Arya again, Marcus said firmly. I almost lost her, Thomas. Not to death, but to damage so deep it might take years to heal. No amount of money is worth that. Understanding dawned in Thomas's eyes. I'll handle Reynolds and the board. You focus on your daughter. By late February, 3 months after Vivian's departure, Marcus made a decision that would change their lives forever. He was watching Arya play in the backyard with Patricia, really play, not the careful, fearful movements she'd exhibited before, when clarity struck like lightning. His phone rang. The board chairman. Marcus almost didn't answer, but old habits died hard. Marcus, we need to discuss your return timeline. Chairman Wallace began without preamble. The company needs leadership, and while Thomas is competent, he's not you. Marcus watched Arya chase a butterfly, her laughter ringing across the lawn. What if I'm not coming back? Silence on the other end. Then, excuse me? What if I step down as CEO, permanently, make Thomas the permanent replacement? You can't be serious. You built this company from nothing. It's your legacy, your life's work. No, Marcus interrupted. My daughter is my life's work. The company is just a company. Marcus, think about what you're saying. You're 40 years old. You have decades of productive work ahead of you. Are you really going to throw away everything you've built to be a full-time father? Marcus had expected this reaction. The business world didn't understand that some things mattered more than profit margins and market dominance. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something more important. I'll stay on as chairman, provide strategic guidance, but someone else can handle the 18-hour days and constant crisis management. I have a daughter who needs me to be present, not perpetually distracted. Wallace sighed heavily. The board will fight this. Then I'll resign completely. My shares give me controlling interest. The board works for me, not the other way around. After he hung up, Marcus felt lighter than he had in years. The decision had been building for weeks, but voicing it made it real. He was choosing Arya, finally completely without reservation. That evening he sat his daughter down for an important conversation. Arya, sweetheart, I want to talk to you about something. Daddy's going to make a big change with work. I'm not going to be the boss of my company anymore. Someone else will do that job so I can spend more time with you. Arya's eyes went wide. Really? You'll be home all the time? Not all the time, but most of the time. I'll still do some work, but nothing like before. I want to take you to school when you start, pick you up, have dinner with you every night, be at every dance recital or soccer game or whatever you decide you want to do. But Grandma said your work was the most important thing, that I shouldn't bother you because you were doing important stuff. Marcus pulled Arya into his lap. Grandma was wrong. You are the most important thing. Work is just work. You're my daughter, and I only get one chance to be your daddy. I don't want to waste any more of it. Arya was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she asked the question that revealed how deeply Vivian's poison had seeped into her thinking. But what if you get bored of me? What if I'm not interesting enough and you miss your work? The heartbreak of that question nearly undid Marcus. Oh, baby girl, you could never bore me. Being with you is the best part of my day. Watching you learn and grow and become yourself, that's more exciting than any business deal. Promise? I promise. You're stuck with me now. Arya smiled, tentative but genuine. Good. I like being stuck with you. March arrived with the promise of spring. Arya's 5th birthday approached, and Marcus threw himself into planning the party she'd never had. He rented space at a children's museum, hired her favorite princess character, ordered a castle-shaped cake, and invited every child from her pre-kindergarten class. Daddy, this is too much, Patricia said gently when she saw the pile of presents. She's turning 5, not 15. But I missed her 2nd, 3rd, and 4th birthdays, Marcus protested. I have years to make up for. You can't make up for lost time with presents. You make up for it with presents, which you're already doing. The party was everything Marcus had hoped for. Arya wore a sparkly purple dress and a plastic tiara, her face painted like a butterfly. She ran and played with her friends, shrieking with delight, completely uninhibited in a way Marcus had never seen before. Near the end of the party, an unexpected guest arrived. Marcus looked up to see a woman in her mid-30s standing hesitantly in the doorway. His sister Victoria. He hadn't seen Victoria in almost 8 years, not since she'd fled across the country to escape Vivian's controlling nature. At 36, she had their father's gentle eyes and none of their mother's hardness. "Victoria," Marcus said, crossing the room quickly. "What are you doing here? I saw an article about your resignation. It mentioned you were focusing on your daughter, and I remembered. I remembered what Mom was like. I had to check on Arya." Marcus made a quick decision. Come meet her properly. When Arya spotted her aunt, Marcus introduced them. "Sweetheart, this is my sister Victoria, your aunt. She lives far away, which is why you haven't met her before." Arya studied Victoria with cautious curiosity. "Are you like Grandma Vivian?" Victoria knelt down to Arya's level. "No, honey. Grandma Vivian and I are very different. In fact, I haven't talked to her in many years because she wasn't very kind to me when I was growing up." "You don't like Grandma either?" "I don't. She hurt my feelings a lot, kind of like she hurt yours." Arya's expression softened slightly. "Do you want some birthday cake?" Victoria smiled. "I'd love some." Later, after the guests had left and Arya was crashed on the couch, Victoria and Marcus talked in the kitchen. "What did she do to Arya?" Victoria asked quietly. Marcus told her everything. His sister's face cycled through shock, horror, rage, and finally tears. "I knew Mom was capable of it," Victoria whispered. "She did similar things to me growing up. The emotional abuse, the impossible standards, the constant criticism. That's why I left and never looked back." "I'm sorry I didn't see it then," Marcus said. "I'm sorry I didn't protect you." "You were a kid too," Victoria said. "But Marcus, I want to be in Arya's life. I want her to know she has family who isn't like Mom. Would that be okay?" "She'd love that," Marcus said. "We both would." Victoria stayed in Boston for a week, bonding with Arya through art projects and storytelling. When she left, she promised to video call regularly. Summer passed in a blur of healing and growth. Arya's nightmares decreased. Her smiles came more easily. She gained weight, her cheeks filling out, her arms less stick-thin. In September, Arya started kindergarten. Marcus walked her to the classroom that first day, his heart full of pride and terror. "What if the other kids don't like me?" Arya whispered. "Then they're missing out on knowing an amazing little girl," Marcus said. "But I think they're going to love you." And they did. Within weeks, Arya had made friends, was thriving academically, and came home each day bursting with stories about what she'd learned. But in October, trouble arrived. The school called about an incident. Arya had gotten into a fight with a boy named Tyler. Marcus arrived to find his daughter sitting outside the principal's office, tear-stained and upset. "What happened?" he asked. "We had Grandparents' Day," Arya said quietly. "Tyler asked where my grandma was. I said she couldn't come. He asked why, and I said it was private. He kept asking and asking, so I told him to leave me alone. Then he pushed me and said I was being mean, so I pushed him back and he fell and bumped his nose. The principal, Mrs. Henderson, called them in. "Mr. Whitfield, I understand there may be family complications, but physical aggression—" "She defended herself after being pushed first," Marcus interrupted. "While I'll discuss better conflict resolution with Arya, I'm not going to make her feel ashamed for standing up for herself when another child became physical." At their favorite ice cream shop later, Marcus and Arya talked it through. "You were right to set a boundary by saying your family situation is private," Marcus said. "And when Tyler pushed you, you had a right to protect yourself. But next time, maybe try telling a teacher first." "He wouldn't stop asking," Arya said. "And it made me feel bad that I don't have a grandma who can come to school." Marcus's heart ached. "I know, sweetheart, and I'm sorry you don't have a kind grandmother. But you have people who love you, me, Patricia, Aunt Victoria. That's what matters. I wish I had more family, though." "Me too, baby, me too." That conversation stuck with Marcus. Arya was missing out on extended family because of Vivian's abuse. It wasn't fair. Then, in November, exactly 1 year after finding Arya in the backyard, Marcus received a letter from Vivian's attorney. She was suing for grandparents' rights, claiming Marcus had alienated her from her granddaughter without cause. Marcus stared at the legal documents, rage building in his chest. After everything she'd done, Vivian was using the courts to try to regain access to Aria. She's doing what? His lawyer Richard asked in disbelief when Marcus called. Suing for visitation rights, claiming I overreacted and denied her relationship with her granddaughter. We'll fight this, Richard said immediately. With Dr. Brennan's documentation and Patricia's testimony, we have a strong case. But Marcus, you need to prepare for the possibility of a trial. Whatever it takes, Marcus said. She's not getting near Aria again. But when he had to tell Aria about the lawsuit, his daughter's reaction broke his heart. Does this mean I have to see Grandma? Aria asked, her voice small and terrified. Not if I can help it, Marcus promised. We're going to tell a judge what happened, and the judge will decide that you shouldn't have to see someone who hurt you. But what if the judge says yes? Then we'll keep fighting. But Aria, even if the worst happens, any visits would be supervised. I'd be right there with you. She'd never be alone with you again. Aria clung to him. I'm scared, Daddy. I know, baby, I'm scared too, but we're going to get through this together. As Marcus held his daughter, he felt the weight of the battle ahead. Vivian wasn't going to let go without a fight. And this time the stakes were even higher than before. Because now Aria knew what safety felt like. Forcing her back into Vivian's presence, even supervised, would re-traumatize her in ways that might take years to heal. Marcus had broken his daughter free from his mother's abuse once. Now he had to make sure she stayed free, whatever it took. December brought the harsh reality of legal warfare. Marcus spent weeks preparing for trial, reliving the worst day of his life through depositions, watching video of Aria's therapy sessions where she described the abuse, providing evidence that his own mother had systematically tortured his daughter. Vivian's attorney painted a picture of a devoted grandmother who'd sacrificed her golden years to help raise a difficult child, while her workaholic son neglected his parental duties. They claimed the grass incident was a misunderstanding, that Vivian had never actually forced Aria to eat anything, that Marcus had misinterpreted a lesson about gratitude. This is insane, Marcus told Victoria during one of their phone calls. They're claiming I made it up, that I'm an unreliable witness because I was stressed from work. They're going to lose, Victoria said confidently. You have too much evidence. Dr. Brennan's testimony alone is damning. But the stress was affecting Aria. She knew something was wrong, could sense Marcus's tension even though he tried to hide it. Is Grandma coming back? Aria asked one night, her old fears resurfacing. Grandma is trying to convince a judge to let her see you, Marcus explained carefully. But the judge will look at all the evidence of how she treated you, and I believe any reasonable person won't force you to spend time with someone who hurt you. But what if the judge says I have to? Marcus pulled her close. Then it would only be supervised visits where I'd be right there with you. She'd never be alone with you again, I promise. I don't want to see her ever, even with you there. She scares me. I know, baby. I know. Christmas was subdued. Marcus tried to make it festive for Aria, decorating the tree and baking cookies with Patricia's help. But the upcoming trial cast a shadow over everything. Victoria came to visit, bringing presents and her warm presence. She'd been visiting every few weeks since Aria's birthday, building a real relationship with her niece. Aunt Vicky, Aria squealed when she arrived. We made gingerbread houses. Want to see mine? I'd love to see it. While Aria showed off her creation, Victoria pulled Marcus aside. How are you really doing? She asked. Terrified, Marcus admitted. What if I lose? What if the judge orders visitation? You won't lose. But Marcus, you need to take care of yourself too. Are you still seeing Dr. Sullivan? Marcus had started therapy himself a few months ago, working through his own childhood trauma and learning to separate his mother's voice from his own thoughts. I am. He's helping me understand that my workaholism, my perfectionism, my inability to rest, all of it came from Mom's programming. We're both recovering from her, Victoria said. But at least Aria won't have to. You broke the cycle. The court date was set for mid-January. As the new year arrived, Marcus felt time running out. He spent every moment he could with Arya, knowing that whatever happened in court would change their lives again. On January 10th, they entered the courtroom. Judge Catherine Morrison, the irony of sharing his late wife's name wasn't lost on Marcus, was a stern woman in her 60s who'd heard thousands of family cases. "This is a petition for grandparent visitation rights," Judge Morrison began. "Mrs. Whitfield, you claim you've been unjustly denied access to your granddaughter. Mr. Whitfield, you claim visitation would be harmful to the child. Let's hear the evidence." Vivian's attorney went first, painting Vivian as a devoted grandmother wronged by an overreacting son. Then Vivian took the stand. "I love Arya with all my heart," Vivian said, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. "I gave up my own life to help my son when his wife died. Was I strict sometimes? Yes, but I never abused her. The grass incident was a misunderstanding. I was teaching her about gratitude by showing her what hungry children might eat. I never tried to force her to eat it. It was a masterful lie, delivered with tears and maternal concern." Marcus felt sick. When Richard cross-examined Vivian, he was surgical. "Mrs. Whitfield, you claim you never locked Arya in the basement. Are you aware that the basement door has a lock installed on the outside? That was there when we moved in. The house was built in 2018. The lock was installed in 2022, according to hardware store receipts. Who installed it?" Vivian faltered. For safety. To keep Arya from going down there unsupervised. By locking her inside it?" Richard's voice was sharp. Vivian had no good answer. Next came Dr. Brennan, professional and unshakable. She described Arya's condition when they'd first met. The hypervigilance, the fear responses, the nightmares, the food anxiety. "In my professional opinion, Arya exhibited all the classic signs of sustained emotional and psychological abuse," Dr. Brennan testified. "The patterns were consistent with a child who'd been subjected to harsh punishment, verbal degradation, and conditional love." Patricia Rodriguez testified about the Arya she'd met: jumpy, fearful, apologizing constantly for normal childhood behaviors. "The first time she spilled milk, she begged me not to lock her in the basement," Patricia said. "That's not a normal reaction. That's a learned response to punishment." Marcus had to take the stand and relive finding Arya in the backyard, describing every horrific detail that had emerged in the weeks that followed. "Why didn't you call Child Protective Services?" Vivian's attorney challenged. "Because I wanted to protect Arya from additional trauma," Marcus answered firmly. "I removed her from the situation immediately, got her professional help, and cut off all contact with my mother." The most critical testimony came from a court-appointed child psychologist who'd interviewed Arya privately. Marcus wasn't allowed to be present, could only wait in the hallway while his daughter was questioned about her worst experiences. When the psychologist emerged, she provided her report to the judge. Marcus received a copy through Richard. "Arya described years of systematic abuse," Richard explained. The psychologist found her account highly credible. But there's a complication. Arya refused to testify in person. She shut down completely when asked about potentially seeing Vivian. "She's 5 years old," Marcus said desperately. "We can't put her through that." The judge agreed. "She's ruling that the psychologist's report is sufficient and won't require Arya to appear." The trial lasted 3 days. Both attorneys gave closing arguments. Vivian's attorney painted Marcus as overprotective and alienating. Richard methodically presented the evidence of abuse, the expert testimony, Arya's documented trauma. "Your Honor, this isn't parental alienation," Richard concluded. "This is a father protecting his daughter from documented abuse. Forcing contact would cause severe psychological harm." Judge Morrison looked at both parties. "I'll issue my ruling in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 14 more days of uncertainty." Marcus watched Arya's progress crumble under the stress, her nightmares returning, her anxiety spiking. "What happens tomorrow, Daddy?" Arya asked each morning, seeking reassurance that nothing would change, that she was still safe. "Tomorrow we'll have breakfast together and you'll go to school and I'll pick you up and we'll come home and be together," Marcus promised every time, just like today. But he couldn't promise beyond that. Not until the judge ruled. The call came on a Friday afternoon in late January. Marcus was helping Arya with a puzzle when his phone rang. Richard's number. Marcus's hands shook as he answered. Richard? We won. Marcus's knees nearly buckled. What? Judge Morrison denied the petition completely. She ruled that visitation would be harmful to Arya based on the overwhelming evidence of abuse. Vivian has no legal right to contact, and the judge is ordering a permanent restraining order. We won? Marcus repeated, unable to process it. Complete victory. The judge's ruling is scathing. She found Vivian's testimony not credible, found your evidence and expert witnesses compelling, and determined that Arya's best interests require zero contact with her grandmother. After hanging up, Marcus sat on the floor, tears streaming down his face. It was over. The legal battle was over. Vivian couldn't touch them anymore. Daddy? Arya appeared in the doorway. Why are you crying? Marcus opened his arms. Come here, baby. Arya ran into his embrace and he held her tight. The judge made her decision. You don't have to see Grandma, ever. You're safe. You're completely safe now. Arya pulled back to look at his face. Really? Forever? Forever. The judge made it official. Grandma can't come back, can't call, can't contact us at all. Arya's face transformed, the weight she'd been carrying finally lifting. We won. We won. She burst into tears, not fear or grief, but pure relief. They held each other on the living room floor and cried together, releasing months of tension. The weekend was pure celebration. Victoria drove up from Providence. They ordered all of Arya's favorite foods, watched movies, stayed up late eating popcorn. It felt like the massive exhale after holding their breath for months. What are you going to do now? Victoria asked Marcus on Sunday evening. Just live, Marcus said, watching Arya show Patricia a dance. No more crisis mode, just being a dad. But Victoria was right. Normal had to be redefined after such upheaval. Marcus made changes to the house. He had the basement lock removed and converted the basement into a bright playroom with windows and sunshine, erasing that space of trauma. He redecorated Arya's bedroom with her input, letting her choose purple walls and glow-in-the-dark stars. I want a reading corner with lots of pillows, Arya announced. Then that's exactly what you'll get, Marcus promised. He also finalized his resignation from the board of Whitfield Technologies, selling his shares and stepping away completely. That's your legacy, Thomas protested when Marcus told him. Arya is my legacy, Marcus corrected. The company will be fine without me. For the first time in his life, Marcus had no 5-year plan, no strategic objectives. He was just present, day by day, being Arya's father. He enrolled in psychology classes at Boston University, thinking he might eventually work with families escaping abuse. He volunteered at Arya's school. He learned to cook decent meals. He discovered hobbies he'd never had time for: hiking with Arya, photography, reading for pleasure. Most importantly, he learned to be still. To sit on the porch with coffee and not feel guilty about not working. To play games with Arya without checking his phone. To be fully present instead of mentally 3 steps ahead. You're different, Patricia observed one afternoon. Lighter. I feel lighter, Marcus admitted. Like I've been carrying weight I didn't know was there and someone finally took it off my shoulders. That's healing, Patricia said. For both of you. Arya's 5th birthday had been in March. By the time spring arrived again, 1 full year since Vivian's expulsion, the transformation was remarkable. Arya was thriving in kindergarten. She'd made close friends, particularly a girl named Hannah, who came over for playdates. She'd joined a soccer team and discovered she loved running. She'd started taking art classes with Victoria, who'd permanently relocated to Boston and was now a regular presence in their lives. The nightmares had faded to maybe once a month. The food anxiety had largely resolved. Arya could leave food on her plate without panic, could try new things without fear, could eat for pleasure instead of survival. She still had moments of regression, times when something would trigger a memory and she'd shut down or become clingy. But those moments were growing less frequent and less intense. Dr. Sarah says I'm making excellent progress, Arya reported after one therapy session. She says I'm very brave for working through hard feelings. You are brave, Marcus agreed. The bravest person I know. One Saturday in April, Marcus and Arya returned to the backyard where everything had changed. The grass had grown back completely, no trace of that November day remaining. Do you remember what happened here? Marcus asked gently. Dr. Brennan had encouraged him to let Arya process the memory when she was ready. Arya looked at the lawn thoughtfully. That's where you found me with Grandma, where everything got better. Does it make you sad to remember? A little, but also not really because it was when you saved me. When you chose me instead of work. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I should have chosen you from the beginning. But you didn't know, Arya said with 5-year-old wisdom. Grandma was sneaky. She hid the bad stuff from you. It's not your fault you didn't see. The absolution from his daughter, the forgiveness he didn't deserve, broke something open in Marcus's chest. I love you so much, Arya. You know that, right? I know, Daddy. I love you too. She paused. Can we plant flowers here? Where the bad thing happened, make it pretty? That's a wonderful idea. They spent the afternoon planting tulips and daisies, turning that patch of grass into a garden. As they worked side by side, getting dirt under their fingernails and laughing when the hose sprayed them accidentally, Marcus realized this was healing too, reclaiming that space, transforming it from site of trauma to something beautiful. Look, Daddy, Arya pointed to a butterfly landing on one of the newly planted flowers. It's visiting our garden. It's beautiful, Marcus said. Just like you. Arya giggled. Butterflies aren't people, Daddy. They're insects. Smart and beautiful, Marcus amended, tickling her. My brilliant scientist daughter. That evening, after Arya was asleep, Marcus sat on the porch and reflected on the journey. 2 years ago, he'd been a hollow man chasing success while his daughter suffered. He'd had everything the world said mattered. Money, power, prestige, but nothing that actually did. Now he had less in material terms. No company, no CEO title, no 70-hour work weeks. But he had everything that mattered. A healing daughter who smiled freely, a sister who'd become a true friend, a purpose that fulfilled him, peace he'd never known before. His phone buzzed. An email confirming the permanent restraining order against Vivian had been filed. She was legally prohibited from contacting them for the next 10 years. Renewable indefinitely. Marcus deleted it without a second thought. Vivian Whitfield had no power over them anymore. She was simply irrelevant. What mattered was the future. Arya starting first grade in the fall, Victoria's children's book series being published with Arya as her proudest supporter. Marcus's psychology classes opening new paths, a life built on presence instead of absence. Inside, he could hear Arya talking in her sleep. Not nightmare sounds, but happy murmuring about butterflies and flowers. Marcus smiled. Tomorrow they'd water the garden together. Maybe invite Hannah over for a play date. Perhaps take Victoria out for lunch to celebrate her book deal. Simple things, normal things, precious things. The grass that Vivian had tried to force Arya to eat had become their turning point. Not teaching the lesson Vivian intended, but revealing the truth Marcus needed to see. That simple patch of lawn had saved them both. 6 months later, in October, Marcus stood in the backyard watching Arya play soccer with her team. At 5.5 years old, she was still the youngest player, but she ran with fierce determination, her blonde ponytail flying behind her. Go, Arya! Marcus cheered from the sidelines alongside other parents. Victoria stood beside him, camera ready to capture the moment. She's amazing, Victoria said. You've done something incredible, Marcus. We've done it together, Marcus corrected. You, me, Patricia, Dr. Brennan. It took a village. But you made the choice. You saw what was happening and you stopped it. Not every parent does that. The game ended with Arya's team winning 3-2. She ran to Marcus, sweaty and beaming. Did you see? Did you see me score? I saw you were incredible. Marcus scooped her up and she wrapped her legs around his waist, still small enough to carry comfortably. Can we get ice cream to celebrate? Absolutely. Want to invite Hannah? Yes, and Aunt Vicky has to come too. At the ice cream shop, the three of them sat outside on a perfect autumn day. Arya chattered about the game while Marcus and Victoria exchanged knowing glances. The kind of silent communication siblings develop, acknowledging the miracle of this moment. 2 years ago, Arya had been a terrified shell of a child. Now she was this vibrant, confident, joyful little person who believed in herself and trusted the world around her. "Daddy," Arya said suddenly, her face serious. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that, sweetheart?" "Dr. Sarah asked me if I ever think about Grandma Vivian. And I do sometimes, but not scared thoughts anymore, just wondering thoughts." Marcus's heart clenched, but he kept his voice steady. "What kind of wondering thoughts?" "I wonder if she's sad. If she knows what she did was wrong. If she ever thinks about me and wishes she'd been nicer." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but she remained quiet, letting Marcus handle this delicate moment. "Those are very thoughtful questions," Marcus said carefully. "What do you think?" Arya considered this, licking her ice cream cone. "I think maybe she doesn't know it was wrong. Because if she knew, she would have stopped. Like when I accidentally hurt Hannah's feelings and she told me, and I said sorry and didn't do it again." The psychological insight from a 5-year-old was staggering. "You're probably right," Marcus said. "Some people don't realize when they're hurting others, or they think they're helping when they're actually causing harm." "Is that why you don't let her see me? To protect me?" "Exactly. Even if Grandma doesn't think she did anything wrong, I know she did. And my job is to keep you safe, even from family members." Arya nodded, satisfied with this explanation. "That's good. I don't want to see her, but I hope she finds someone to help her understand, like Dr. Sarah helps me understand my feelings." Marcus marveled at his daughter's capacity for compassion even toward her abuser. Arya hadn't become bitter or hateful. She'd become thoughtful and kind, able to hold complex emotions simultaneously. "You have such a big heart," Marcus said, kissing the top of her head. "That's because you love me so much there's extra to share," Arya said simply, returning to her ice cream. That night, after Arya was asleep, Marcus sat at his desk and did something he'd been contemplating for months. He opened his laptop and began typing. Title: Breaking the Cycle: A Father's Journey from Corporate Success to Personal Redemption. Chapter 1: The Day Everything Changed. He wrote about finding Arya in the backyard, about the 3 years of abuse he'd missed, about the painful process of healing. He wrote about Vivian's patterns, recognizing them in himself, understanding how generational trauma perpetuated itself. He wrote about choosing presence over profit, about redefining success, about learning that being a good parent meant being present and imperfect rather than absent and achieving. The words poured out, 3 hours of writing that felt like purging and healing simultaneously. When he finally stopped, he had 15 pages of raw, honest narrative. He didn't know if he'd ever publish it, but writing it felt important, a way to process everything that had happened, to potentially help other parents recognize the signs of abuse, to break the silence that enabled people like Vivian. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Arya asked me today if I could teach her to paint portraits. She wants to paint you as a superhero. Thought you should know." Marcus smiled, tears stinging his eyes. A superhero. He didn't feel like one. He felt like a man who'd almost failed his daughter and was desperately trying to make up for lost time. But maybe that was what heroes really were. Not people who never failed, but people who failed and then fought like hell to make things right. Over the next months, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Arya thrived in first grade. Marcus finished his first semester of psychology courses with honors. Victoria's book series launched to critical acclaim, and Arya proudly told everyone her aunt was a famous illustrator. Patricia remained a constant, beloved presence, evolving from caregiver to family friend who joined them for holidays and celebrations. Marcus even started dating someone, a kind teacher named Rachel, who understood his priorities and never pressured him to put her before Arya. It was early, tentative, but healthy in ways his previous relationships never had been. "I like Rachel," Arya told him after Rachel had joined them for dinner. "She's nice. And she didn't try too hard to make me like her. She just was nice." "What do you think about Daddy having a girlfriend?" Arya considered this seriously. "I think it's okay. As long as you don't forget about me. Never, Marcus promised. You're my number one, always. Anyone in my life has to understand that. Then it's okay. Everyone needs friends, even daddies. Christmas that year was everything Marcus had always imagined. The house filled with laughter, presents piled under the tree, Aria's face glowing with joy as she opened gifts surrounded by people who loved her. Marcus, Victoria, Patricia, Rachel, Hannah, and her parents, Dr. Brennan, who'd become like family. As Marcus watched Aria show off her new art supplies to Victoria, demonstrate her new soccer moves to Patricia, and teach Rachel a game she'd learned at school, he felt profound gratitude. 2 years ago, he'd been lost. His daughter had been breaking under systematic abuse. Their lives had been built on toxic foundations that were crumbling. Now they were free. Broken free from Vivian's control, from generational trauma, from the belief that love had to be earned through achievement and perfection. "Thank you," Marcus whispered to no one in particular, or perhaps to Catherine somewhere in the universe, or just to fate for giving him the gift of arriving home early that November afternoon. New Year's Eve arrived. Marcus and Aria stayed home, just the two of them, making homemade pizza and watching the ball drop on TV. As midnight approached, Aria climbed into Marcus's lap. "Daddy, can we make wishes for the new year?" "Of course. What do you wish for?" Aria thought carefully. "I wish for Hannah to be in my class next year, and for Aunt Vicky to sell lots of books, and for you to be happy. What about you? What do you wish for yourself?" "I already have what I wished for," Aria said simply. "I have you." Marcus's throat tightened with emotion. "I have you too, baby girl. Best thing that ever happened to me. Better than being a CEO? 1,000,000 times better." As the countdown began, Marcus held his daughter close, feeling her warmth, her trust, her unconditional love. 10, 9, 8. 2 years ago, he'd been counting down to financial quarters and product launches. 7, 6, 5. Now he counted down to moments like this, perfect, simple, real. 4, 3, 2, 1. "Happy New Year," Aria shouted, throwing her arms around his neck. "Happy New Year, sweetheart." The future stretched ahead, uncertain but bright. Aria would grow, face new challenges, carry some scars from her early years. But she'd do it with a father who was present, a support system that loved her, and the knowledge that she was worthy of love exactly as she was. Marcus had learned that you couldn't fix the past. Catherine was still gone. 3 years of Aria's childhood had been stolen by abuse. Those facts couldn't be changed, but you could choose what came next. You could break cycles, build new patterns, create different outcomes. The grass in their backyard had become a garden now, blooming with flowers Aria tended carefully. That patch of lawn that had held so much pain had been transformed into something beautiful, just like their lives. Marcus looked down at his daughter, drowsy against his chest, and made a silent promise to Catherine, to himself, to Aria. "I will never take this for granted. I will never stop choosing her. I will never let work or ambition or anyone else come between us. This child, this moment, this love. This is my life's greatest achievement." Aria's breathing evened out as she fell asleep, safe and loved and free. Marcus carried her to bed, tucked her in among her stuffed animals, and whispered, "Sweet dreams, baby girl. Tomorrow's going to be a good day." And it would be. And the day after that. And the day after that. Because they'd survived the worst and come out the other side stronger, closer, healed. The grass had changed everything, but love had saved them. And that love, imperfect, hard-won, fiercely protected, would carry them forward into whatever came next. Together.